I don't know how many of you have ever attended one of these sessions. We've done a number of them, including as a keynote here at Affiliate Summit. Ask Us Anything is actually an Ask Us Anything. There are slight rules. Don't ask us to solve the major website problem you have. If it's specific to your website, we ask that you come up and talk to us later. If it is generally something that the audience would care about, that's what the question and answer period is all about. There are 3 of us on the panel. I myself am Bruce Clay. I run bruceclay.com. There's Stephan Spencer.
Yep.
And Duane Forrester. So we're going to have everybody do more of an introduction of themselves. The way we're going to do it, there's a microphone up here in the middle. Anybody who wants to ask a question, just go ahead and line up. We think it'll, 4 or 5 minutes a question. We'll get through them. If you run out of questions, then we'll start asking ourselves questions, things that are generally applicable to everybody. Between us, we've got something like 9 books. Over 50 years in the industry, we think we can handle most any question, and we'd be happy to have you just try to stump us. This is session 13A. Now, all of you have the evaluation forms that were handed out when you came in. We'll keep it simple. Right now, just circle 10s. Make it simple.
We've done this in the past. It works beautifully.
It works great. Everybody circles 10s.
We all win.
We all win.
And we deliver. We deliver the goods, too.
We deliver. So, and by the way, we are all very good friends, and you're going to find us doing exactly this. We're going to kid each other. We're going to have fun up here. Duane, introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. Duane Forrester. Let's see, quick rundown. Used to work at Caesar's Palace, moved into sports betting, wrote a book, was hired by Microsoft, ran SEO there, launched Webmaster Tools in 2012 for Bing, left there, was working with Bruce for about a year, and will be starting with a new company at the end of this month. That's me.
And it's a secret.
Yeah,
we haven't tell even me.
No, we haven't announced it yet. There's a PR
His
thing.
wife knows.
There's a PR, and the company knows. But,
Okay. So I'm Stephan Spencer. I have a few books under my belt. They're O'Reilly books. Who's a fan of O'Reilly?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. So this is the easy one. This is 72 pages. Google Power Search, how to find anything in Google. Like confidential business plans, Forrester research reports that cost thousands of dollars. I've even found credit card number files with the actual expiration dates and everything. I didn't teach you how to do that in the book, by the way. This is social e-commerce, which is how to drive sales through social media. And this beast, this is the Bible on SEO. Look at that, 1,000 pages. You could hurt somebody with this book. 3rd edition, and the 3rd edition came out in September of 2015, so it's still pretty current. There's just a few things missing, like AMP and RankBrain and a few tools and things, but it's still very current. And I'm going to give some books away. So if you have an amazing tweet that you want to share with the world from this session, go ahead and tweet that, and the best tweets will get a book. And who wants a book right now? Like
you don't want the book.
Like enough to actually come up and get it?
You don't want.
Like,
you have
seriously?
to carry this home.
Like, I don't even know if I should give this to you, Oscar, because you
walk
walked really
internet
slow.
marketing and
but
business.
There you go. Early bird gets the worm. I mean, you get like, what? Get a book?
Sit in front. Sit in front.
See, now the joke's on you because he doesn't have to pack that home now.
Right.
The 6-pound book.
That book is very good for reading just before you want to go to sleep.
Yeah. My friend Amy Africa says that it's better than Ambien. I'll take it as a compliment. I'm not sure if it's one. And, and I have 2 podcasts you must subscribe to. So I almost forgot those. There's the Optimized Geek and Marketing Speak. So the Optimized Geek is not an SEO podcast, even though it sounds like one. It's a biohacking and life hacking podcast. Who's heard of the Bulletproof Diet or Bulletproof Coffee? Dave Asprey, anyone? Yeah, he's awesome. I've had him on my show. I've had Dr. Daniel Amen, who wrote Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. I've had Byron Katie, huge self-help guru, some really amazing guests. I've had Tim Ferriss, let's see, David Allen, who wrote Getting Things Done. Some great, great guests. So if you want to jot that down, The Optimized Geek, or you can just come and get a podcast card to remind you after the session. And then the other one is Marketing Speak, which is also amazing. I've had some incredible guests on, like Jay Abraham, Dan Kennedy, like the godfather of copywriting, and a whole bunch of really great folks who've spoken here. In fact, the co-organizer of this conference, Sean Collins, has been one of my guests. So that's another one, Marketing Speak. All right.
Okay, I'm Bruce Clay. I have a website which is bruceclay.com, which sort of makes it a little bit easier for you to remember. I started doing SEO in January of 1996 as a pure play SEO company. I've been given credit, depends on who you talk to, for inventing the term search engine optimization. I wrote a book, not quite as big as his. It was bigger when I did the first edition, but he had to pass me. It is Search Engine Optimization All-in-One for Dummies by Wiley. So it's a tabletop kind of a book, hopefully helps you.
Tabletop book?
Tabletop. Yeah, you keep it on your...
Like a coffee table book?
It's a little bit bigger than that. But it's a reference book, and so that helps. I have offices on 5 continents. We do SEO, PPC kind of stuff. So any questions that sort of bridge over, we should be able to answer up here. So does anybody have a question? You have to line up at the mic.
Anyone?
Come on, we're ready for you.
Okay, the rest of you get ready, because this one might suck.
Get ready.
We don't know.
I have 2 questions, but I think they're related. I'd like to hear your opinion. With Penguin 4, we obviously saw the granular devaluation of links, so the change in the Penguin algorithm. Seems to be a school of thought, and we support this, that Google has introduced as part of the Penguin 4 algorithm more of a filter, or a more important filter on topical relevance of the location of links. So I'd like to hear your opinion on that. So there's some SEOs that seem to think, I'm talking about published SEOs, that seem to think, no, it's just kind of doing what it used to do, but now it's doing it at an individual link and page level. There's some that think that it's actually going deeper. It's actually evaluating the topical relevance of where the link is actually located, the content, the theme of the website, etc. The second part of my question is, do you believe that there is any link between that, if you accept that hypothesis, and RankBrain?
Okay, so I'll start. On your first question, you're absolutely right. Google has added to the algorithm the capability to determine that your inbound links are inorganic. In other words, the site that links to you is not about the same thing you're about. So it's theme-based from the sending side. And that was really to fight a lot of spam sites that would just publish blogs of any kind and link to you. Each blog, while it may be contextually relevant, in aggregate across the site, they were all little islands. And the way to fight that, obviously, is to make the site that links to you themed to be similar to yours. And also, your site has to be a little bit more themed. It's more of a site-wide analysis than a page analysis. So that's the first part. RankBrain is really more of a, to me, it seems to be more of a content-centric thing. It's trying to figure out what you're about.
Well, it's the official line from Google is that it's all about the query, analyzing the query. But machine learning is going to take over all aspects of Google in their determination of what search results should get to the top and which ones should get buried. It's not just about the topical relevance of the link. It's about the geolocation and a bunch of other aspects, the location on the page. So if you are trying to rank in Las Vegas, you want to get local links from Las Vegas, Convention Visitors Bureau, the Better Business, or not, the Tourism Bureau, all that sort of stuff that is local to your city. Let's see, what else do I want to mention about it? So if you think about topical relevance in terms of entities and topical neighborhoods. There's a really amazing tool that it just is coming out from Search Metrics. It's a topic explorer. So this is going to be really handy for you to do your keyword research, or more topic research, I guess I'd call it. And then you can even use their content evaluation tool, paste in an existing article that you wrote, or write an article inside their content editor, and it will tell you if you hit those topics adequately or not. It's an amazing tool. You can zoom in on certain topics and blow those out and see subtopics. You can add topics to your topic list and so forth. So that's the Topic Explorer from Search Metrics. It's part of their content suite that is brand new. I think it might still be in private beta, but it's due to be released very soon.
So I'm going to second that. I actually saw a preview of the Search Metrics tool back in October, or late September. It's fabulous. Does a very good job of this. So a couple of things that are kind of rolled into this. The concept of inbound link context, which is essentially what Penguin's dealing with. You know, Google has been saying for years that they were capable of doing this, and finally, with this update, they are now capable of doing this, having that granular definition of what local for a link means. It may mean local as in within a community, within a city, within a region, zip code, whatever. It could mean within a neighborhood online, so a vertical, a section of a vertical, this kind of idea. So that's essentially what they've progressed to. They've progressed to what they claim to have been able to do and wanted to do. They're now factually there and able to do that, which is why we see differences. It does make it very hard to chase links then, because that broad spray and pray approach just doesn't work anymore. You have to be good with this. The other thing about this is RankBrain, and yeah, by its very default, this kind of stuff is a part of RankBrain, but let's not get too confused by this. RankBrain is just a now fancy term for redefining the black box that's always existed at Google. Because prior to that, we had the black box of, you know, you won't tell us what the algorithm is, you won't tell us what the pieces are that we should be looking at. Then we figured out some stuff on our own, things like content, things like quality, and then Google came out and said, oh, the three most important things are content, quality, and RankBrain. Okay, well, what's in RankBrain? Oh, sorry, can't tell you that.
Well, they don't even know what's in it.
You know, and then, but this is, and that's part of the problem now, is it has gotten smart enough that if you kidnap the engineers, kidnapped all the engineers, they wouldn't be able to answer the question for you. At best, you might be able to recreate the earliest version of it with those human beings now. So yeah, it's in there. And ultimately, I know Google and Bing, having been there, they kind of want to get to that point where it's all algorithmic, where it's all trust the machines, and they generally do a good job. I don't know, has anyone here watched the NFL?
What? What's that?
Yeah, sorry, National Football League, Stephan, that
Oh.
almost national
Okay.
pastime that people enjoy. Bing has a prediction feature in there which pissed me off last weekend because my Seahawks lost. And that's what we're kind of using these technologies for, right? Is how can we actually mine the data and come up with information that we think is relevant to a coming step in the searcher's journey. And that's what RankBrain, like, you know, Bruce had kind of alluded to there, that's what RankBrain's job is. It's less about, hey, let's manage all these signals and then give you something. It's more about, let's manage you all and then create a series of individual signals and then give you what is much closer to each of you. I just wish they'd apply it to what they're recommending to me on YouTube, because it's like way off the map.
Yeah, way off. Okay,
another question.
Well, just one quick thing I want to mention too. It just occurred to me that I could get you guys hooked up with, I'm not promising anything, but if you want beta access to the Topic Explorer from Search Metrics.
Promise it.
I'm not going to promise it, but I will make the introduction and I'll make the recommendation. So give me a business card at the end and write Search Metrics on the front or back, and I will make that intro. And they have hooked up some of my previous session attendees with beta access.
Okay, now another question. Anybody? I know there's questions out there.
You guys know you're at a Q&A session, right?
This is a Q&A session. You're
Somebody's
allowed
coming.
to actually ask questions. All right.
We should have a mic runner
Here
so
we
that you
go.
guys don't have to get up.
I've been blogging for 7 years, and 99% of my traffics come from social. I know. We're trying to get into SEO. SEO is our goal for 2017. There's so many agencies out there to help us. There's so many people promising this and promising that. What would you recommend, like the top 3 things that we need to look for SEO, for someone to help us?
Oh, that's a great question. First thing is honesty. So I have this thing called the honesty test, where actually I can't claim ownership of it. A friend of mine came up with it. So it's a really brilliant idea. So in the interview process, you ask them a pretty innocuous question and say, so in order to do this job well, so if we do hire you, what would you think the most important quality or attribute would be to do this job well? Would it be attention to detail? Would it be honesty? Would it be creativity, technical acumen, dedication, perseverance? What would it be?
Okay.
And you just let them answer the question, and the only right answer is honesty. Because if they're not honest, if that's not their number one priority, or that's just not baked into their character, you're going to get screwed. And there's so many charlatans out there. It's really, really tough. Another thing that you can do to weed out the charlatans and posers is to go to my website and download, go to stephanspencer.com and download a free white paper called the SEO BS Detector. Okay? So there's a handful of questions in there that seem really innocuous, and you work them into the interview process, and this will catch them out. They won't know that it's a trick question, essentially, because you're not an SEO expert. So when you ask a question like, what's the process for optimizing meta keywords? Now, this is a trick question because the only right answer is meta keywords never counted in Google. They've always been a waste of time if you care about Google. They've never counted. Now, if they say, well, they don't count as much as they used to, there's the door, because that's not the right answer. They need to know that they never counted in Google. And that's on the record on Google Webmaster Central's blog back in like 2009.
And you said that's found on your site?
So that's on my site. So it's called the SEO BS Detector, and it's on stephanspencer.com under the resources section, resources white paper. So that is really helpful. And then also there's an SEO hiring blueprint that will be quite helpful. That's another white paper in the same area on my site. And that has a 7-step process for hiring, for screening, hiring, onboarding, whether it's a contractor or an agency or an employee. It's applicable. So that's my recommendation.
So I'm going to try it. I'm going to take a different stance. Everything you just said I agree with. The problem is when we have people come to us, we're commonly their 3rd or 4th SEO agency. That happens a lot. And what happens is you hear promises. If anybody talks to you and says the word promise, I promise you ranking, run. If they say the way we're going to get you ranking is we're going to buy links for you or anything that's a known spam tactic, run. My opinion is if they come to you and say, and we're cheap because we're offshore, run. All of those things have a tendency to diminish the ability for them to communicate, to be able to support you, to understand your community. You want people that are actually able to do it. The right SEO company sells value. They don't sell rankings. Rankings aren't a good measure of success for SEOs in general. Everybody should care that your business is prospering. That's the partnership of a true SEO company.
I put in a request already this morning for your business. I haven't gotten to your 2 sites, but just 5 minutes ago I just put in a request for a consult on your site.
So you might want to stick around after the session then and
Yeah.
talk with them.
Okay. And then I have one other question. And maybe this is in search metrics. I'm not sure that technology, but what is the best site that you recommend for finding long tail keywords?
Do you have access to your server logs?
No.
You need access to your server logs?
Yeah. And
Get that.
honestly, like, I'm up here and I feel like such an idiot because I don't know SEO, but talk to me about Facebook. Like, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. And SEO, I'll just come out and say, I don't know. I don't know about it.
I'm actually going to roll back to your first question. No one is going to take a more vested interest in your business and your success than you.
Correct.
So a part of this is you learning some basic things. You know, I mean, these guys have great opportunities, great resources. I started my journey in all of this because I didn't want to have to pay anyone. And here I am 20 years later, and I'm the one being paid. Now, for the record, I don't offer these services, nor will I be in my next career step at the end of the month. But I've spent a lot of time. I founded the in-house committee with Sembo, so I am very well connected to everyone who runs in-house search groups for all of the major brands, all the large companies in the world. I know what it takes to build teams of SEOs. I've built them and trained them myself. A couple of things stand out to me. One, you have to learn some stuff. There's no question.
Yes.
You never hand your future success over to someone else who talked their way through your request for proposal process. Honesty, absolutely. And I will say this, having worked beside Bruce and having known him for a long time, honesty is the #1 answer. I've seen it in action there. It's part of the reason when I left Microsoft that I chose to join Bruce Clay. It's because I know there's an ethical standard. I could also say the same thing for Stephan, because he is a friend. Yeah, I left you hanging, I know. But there does come a point here where price starts to play a role in this, right? This is a skilled area, and the people who actually know what they're doing do command a price. I'm not saying you can't find good value at lower price points, lower being relative to everyone's budgets, obviously. But do not move forward with something because you feel desperate and it fits your budget. That is a dangerous combination of hope, and hope is not a business model.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
So I will, if you want to reach out to me on Twitter, I can answer questions for you. I can look at people and see whether it's real. I know a lot of people as well, so I certainly don't mind supporting folks in that way as well.
Yeah, likewise for me too.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. We're here, we're a resource, we're making ourselves available, you know, use that. One of the things that I used to do when I was looking to hire a company to do this in my startup days was I created an interview just like I would for an employee, but I interviewed the company and I went through a list of things. Then they actually had to give me past businesses that they felt confident would give a recommendation. And then I had to do the legwork to talk to at least 3 of those companies. And I'd have various questions for them. It doesn't really matter because there's only one question you want to ask that company. Knowing what you know today of that service provider, would you hire them again to do the same work? And if the answer is anything other than an instant yes, there's a problem. Something is not working. And 9 times out of 10, it's just, it was okay, but it wasn't that great. It wasn't what I hoped for. And that could be the expectations were out of whack. Or it could be that, you know, these people tried everything they knew, which was limited, and it didn't move the needle, and everybody drifted apart. That happens frequently as well.
And get not just recommendation or referrals from the company of who to talk to, but go to their website and find client logos and contact them.
Okay.
Because they're going to give you the very best referrals, not the ones that kind of went sideways.
One of the things that I think applies to everybody in SEO, especially do-it-yourself SEO, there's a couple of levels. There's you think you know SEO, so you only want tools. There's the I know I don't know SEO, so you want training. And then there's I'm capable, but I can't answer the tough questions. And that seems to be somewhat of a consistent thing. In our company, we offer tools, and we actually have a 3-day and a 5-day training course to train people up on what SEO is. Because if you cannot speak the language to your SEO company, they're gonna snow you. You have to really do it. Read the books, or somehow study enough to be dangerous, at least, if you're talking to an SEO company.
Yeah, take some training online. Like I have a 10-hour course on SEO auditing your own site, like do it yourself. And you don't have to do it yourself, but you'll know the right questions to ask. Like you asked the question about which tools should I use for long-tail keyword research. There's some amazing tools out there, like some of them are even free, like Answer the Public, which will tell you questions that people ask, so you can try and answer those questions with really great content and maybe even get a featured snippet, which is position 0. It's another topic we should talk about at some point in this session. Yeah, so SEMrush, the Topic Explorer from Search Metrics. There's so many amazing tools out there that are not common knowledge, and they're not the Google AdWords Keyword Planner, which is so problematic. There's a really great post on the Moz blog about how bad the Keyword Explorer, or the Keyword Planner is from Google. Like, for example, there are buckets, and you won't get an actual number. You'll get a number that you think is a real number, but it's a bucket number. So it's a 216,000 or something, and the next bucket up is like 241,000. So it's either that number or the next number. There's no in between. And it's like, wow, how can you have something so imprecise? And that's just, I'm just scratching the surface of the problems. And if you're not spending money with AdWords, you're not even getting numbers. You're getting massive ranges, like between 100,000 and 1 million. It's like, that's useless. It's a useless tool. So, in fact, I've got a free webinar on advanced keyword research. There's a sign-up page on my site on Stephan Spencer. So you at least watch that. It's like an hour of training on some of these tools.
Okay, sounds good.
One final comment, and I think this applies to everybody. How many of you have phones, right? How many of you are really doing voice search? Anybody?
Like focusing on it as something that you're building your business toward.
You need to understand that a year from now, 2 at the outside, the keywords you're picking today is not a keyword somebody would say. You have to anticipate that they're going to say what is, or how do I, or you're going to have to start looking at whether or not your website actually ranks for questions. And that is a big part of keyword research. So I just thought I'd throw it in as a final thought.
So I'm actually going to add a final thought.
I'm going to sit down.
No, I got one too.
I'm going to sit down so I can take notes.
No, that's cool.
Thank you.
You don't need to be an expert in any of these topics, because I'm sure a lot of you feel this way. It's like, hey, I'm not really strong in SEO, but I know I need to learn more. When you're approaching a service provider, the only thing you really need to know are what your goals and metrics are, what the focus for your business is. You need to know very firm things about your business, like exactly who your client is and who your customer is, who your target market is. You never want them defining that for you. They can help you refine it if they're working with you, but you want to look for a company that can do more for you than just one thing. So can they do content? Can they give you guidance on pay-per-click? Can they give you guidance on organic? Can they give you guidance on technical aspects of things? Can they pinch hit and actually write for you? All of these different factors, because you need to apply this across various areas. So just take 1 or 2 of those areas and get yourself some basic education in that, so that when you come in and start asking those questions, you have a clear question and you have clearly a correct answer that you know and trust for that question. And then you see what their answer is for the question, because that will help you understand whether they have a strength in the area or if they're just trying to snow you.
Well, the problem with that is, you know, the jack of all trades is a master of none. So for, what was it, 15 years, I ran Net Concepts. That was an SEO agency. We were not a paid search agency, because it is such a different set of skills. If you spread yourself too thin, you cannot be an expert in all the different areas. So I know a lot about paid search, but I don't manage paid search campaigns, and I'm never going to do that myself. I'm an SEO, and if you try to hire an agency that's supposedly expert on all that stuff, first of all, you're going to get a bait and switch. You know, some guru is going to sell you.
That's not true, Stephan.
Oh, it totally happens, right? So
I ran
the
operations at Bruce Clay.
No, but
there's expertise in every one of those areas.
The owner or the thought leader is the one who's going to talk to you and get you all excited, and they're going to, really blow you away, right? And then who's going to write the SEO audit? Who's going to do the link building strategy? Who's going to do the keyword strategy? Not he or she, it's going to be the team. You're going to be assigned an account manager. You're going to be assigned an analyst and a consultant. And it's not going to be the thought leader that sold you. It's just, that's not the way it works. I ran an agency for 15 years. We were in 3 different countries. It's just, you cannot scale the thought leader across dozens of clients. It's not possible. So, I mean, I've got a different model now where I only work directly with the client. I'm the one who's presenting the audit and presenting and who's like gone in there and done the work. So you can't scale that. Like I can only do like 5 clients at a time, but that's I think an ideal sort of situation. And if like when I hire expertise, whether it's Facebook advertising or paid search or whatever, I want the subject matter expert and I want that person to be the one doing the work. And so I'll use a bunch of different point resources and I'll assemble a team, but they're all contractors. So that's my 2 cents, and I know that's very different from agency world.
But it's still valid.
Yeah, thank you.
No.
Okay, we have another candidate.
Oh.
Do you find any negatives using shopping cart solutions like Shopify, BigCommerce, when it comes to SEO? And a second question, normally when working on SEO, we're always looking at Google, and with Alexa, you know, and Siri using Bing, I believe, how do we optimize our sites for Bing, and what do you see as the importance for that? I'm going to get on this one first.
I had a hunch.
Yeah. So, as the former public speaking person for Bing, let me just clarify one point for you. There's no work that you will do that's different for Bing or Google. Okay? The big buckets of what you have to focus on are the same. I will say that Bing, due to the fact it has a smaller index than Google, is definitely more focused on quality of the site, the answer, these kinds of things. Cortana, in fact, from Microsoft does power Alexa and Siri, those kinds of ideas. And this is where Bruce's point of voice search becomes very important. I don't know if anybody watched what happened over the holidays with Alexa and the explosion in sales, and they are by far the market leader in that in-home hardware space. It was very interesting to see the news media talking about the uphill battle that Google has with their home device. It's apparently a good device, but Alexa's way out in front right now. That is becoming a very prevalent thing, and people just ask out loud. You know, this is a very first world problem to solve for because, you know, is it too much to ask that we press and hold a button on our phone to be able to speak to it? Apparently, because we all have to move past that now and just speak out loud to the device. The really cool thing about it is that it allows for the consumer to get exactly what they want. The really, I'd say, nebulous part of it is the consumer actually getting what they want? I mean, the choice is gone. It's one thing that they're being told. It's a very refined answer, which is where, you know, things get really complicated because you have to be able to mark up your content. You have to be able to use schema and play in that space, very technical space, in order to be seen to be that one answer that gets included. I've always been a fan of focusing on the consumer, and that is the message that Bing and long way around Google actually says, is you focus on that consumer, you focus on their journey and where you're at in their journey. And I think Stephan mentioned this earlier, you know, this idea of being able to understand what you have and where it fits into that customer's journey. When you know that, now you can predict where else they're going to show up, and then you can position yourself there as well. And that is a winning formula. It's a little pedantic and it's a little non-sexy. It takes away a lot of guesswork, but it's much more successful.
To answer your question about shopping carts, most of today's shopping carts have facilities for SEO. Many of them you can implement incorrectly. faceted search will kill you because you'll end up with 200 pages of the same content indexed if you aren't careful. So there are things to be careful of at a SEO level when you're implementing some shopping carts, but in general, most of the shopping carts aren't that hard to deal with from an SEO point of view.
There's a big difference between search engine friendly and search engine optimized. So if you get a shopping cart that is search engine friendly, you are not search engine optimized.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And all the configuration settings and so forth and all the different extra extra options that you can pay for, like search-friendly URL plugin or option or whatever. Like, seriously, you have to pay for that? That's crazy. So just buyer beware. And also do your homework to make sure that you're going to get search engine optimized or optimal. Mm-hmm. Because search engine friendly just means you're not repelling the spiders.
It means it's
Googlebot's
crawlable.
not having a freak out attack looking at your site and saying, wow, there are no edges to this site. It's like, it seems like I can go on forever. Like maybe it's misconfigured and you're serving up a 200 status code instead of a 404, and it still says, you know, sorry, this isn't here or whatever, we're out of stock or whatever, but it's not a 404, and Google doesn't trust your site because it doesn't see an edge to it. Just goes on forever. So it could be a configuration error. It could be just this shopping cart is not built by SEO experts, mm-hmm. and that happens a lot. Mm-hmm. Actually, my previous company, Net Concepts, we developed our own shopping cart software called Gravity Market. We sold it to another company, but there weren't very good options at the time. We needed to build something with SEO built in from the ground up, because if you end up with some sort of solution that is not optimized, and after the fact you hire an SEO and they're like, oh, wow, this is a train wreck, they got this wrong and this wrong and this wrong. Mm-hmm. Think of it like this: you're buying or you're building a house, and you didn't know to ask the builders to wire it with electrical, and now there's no wiring, the house is almost finished, and you're like, how do I turn on the lights? Oh, you didn't specify that. That's going to be expensive because we got to tear out the drywall, then we got to patch up the drywall. That happens all the time to websites. Well, what about this aspect? What about the structured data markup? What about the automated generation of XML sitemaps? What about that? They're like, you didn't specify those things. That's going to be expensive because now we have to retrofit and all. Oh boy, not good. So that's one thing. Another thing, I'm going to rain on your Bing parade. Guess what the #2 search engine is? Hint, it's not Bing. YouTube. Yep. So if you don't have a channel, you don't have videos, you haven't optimized your videos, you haven't done your keyword research in YouTube. Do you know how to do keyword research for YouTube? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone?
Neither does he.
I need an answer, quick.
No.
Google Trends.
There you go.
It's free. It's a free tool, and it gives you data specific to YouTube searches. Mm-hmm. So under web search, there is a pull-down list, or a select list, or whatever. So web search is one, image search, and there's YouTube. So select that, and then do your keyword searches. Now, Google Trends is not a perfect keyword research tool because you're not getting real numbers, you're getting percentages, which is kind of useless. But you can compare two keywords to each other and say, wow, this one really sucks in YouTube. Nobody's searching for that versus this other one. So that's really awesome. There's so much we could talk about with regards to YouTube. So just bear that in mind. Do not neglect YouTube. If you're putting all this energy to Bing and you're not thinking about YouTube, you're missing it.
Okay, why don't we see? Any other questions?
Oh, and while he's walking up, here's a super ninja trick for Alexa, for the Echo. Anyone sell anything on Amazon? They have any products they're selling on Amazon? You will massively increase what looks like the desire for your product by having a few of your friends who have Echoes to buy the product through an Alexa voice command. Mm-hmm. That's genius. Because if people are actually buying your product with Alexa, trust me, that's going to look really awesome.
I have two questions. One is Google has said that user experience matters a lot, engagement, but they've also said we don't directly use your analytics data. Do you believe them? Because it seems like that'd be a good source of engagement metrics. And my other question is, are there any link building strategies that you are seeing a lot of success with?
Okay, the answer to the first one is no. Everybody's good with that, right? You understand? No.
What? Say what you mean what you say.
The problem with, okay, I'm going to start with the link building, and you guys can take the rest. Link building has always been problematic. According to Google, if you get a link, it should be somewhat of a surprise to you. You shouldn't have planned for the link.
Oh, you shouldn't have. Oh, I'm so grateful. Thank you. I had no idea it was coming.
Yeah.
But in theory, everybody arranges their own links. They promote their own content. They try to get people to document what's going on or promote their blog post or their website. So in general, what we typically believe is that the link should be earned. And that's just a complex way of saying write stuff worth linking to and then tell the right people about it. But don't go out and buy links, and don't go out and try to do your blog post footer comment things with a link in it, or things like that are just way old. Nobody's going to do that anymore.
So,
but what about private blog networks? Yeah, PBNs, those are the hottest thing, right?
I'll wade in a little bit on the first part of this. I wouldn't assume that Google uses your Google Analytics data as an indication of very much, because that data is often inaccurate when you get it. So it's not like they would feed themselves inaccurate data points. So no. Now, they do accurately see the data related to you versus their own system of tracking, and they see it before you see it. So they see it raw, and then it helps to understand how the engines generally work. Like, it's a series of networked services in the back end of a search engine. So that raw data that comes in, all of those services like Google Trends, the AdWord Planner, the Google Search Console, all of these services would then apply to that raw data feed to take the pieces of it they need to use in tools that they show the data to consumers. Okay, so analytics would be a customer of the raw internal data feed from Google. And the version of the data that they are allowed to show would be sanitized. Now, generally, it's pretty close because we're talking about a relatively secure space. You're logged in, it is you, you're verified, therefore they can show you what's relevant to you. Except there are times when Google will want you to be taking actions, so the data may be skewed a bit. Witness Google AdWords planning and the tools that they have in there. They very clearly want you to give them your money, and then they'll give you something that you think is valuable. It's really not. It's a bit of a red herring. But the advertising works, so there's still a bit of a quid pro quo there. And so they will also get data from other sources because Google is a domain name registrar. Has anyone put up a website and noticed that almost instantly it's been indexed by Google? And you can search it, and you were like, shit, I was going to do some testing on that, and now it's in there. It's because they see the domain name changes in the background. As a domain name registrar, they have access to all of that data. They see it instantly. So as soon as the domain is registered, they're watching. They're constantly pinging to see what goes live. The instant something goes live, it's immediately put in the index. And if it's a crap experience, well, you're judged on that. So be very careful with that.
So put a robots.txt disallow up immediately.
That won't stop them.
Right. So let me just clarify something here. So if Googlebot never spidered your site, then a robots.txt disallow will stop them from spidering, and the pages will not get indexed. But if Google has gotten in there already, then you have to use not a disallow, but a no index. So this is a crucial like nuance, but it's one that developers and
all the time.
System admins get it wrong. So they'll use a disallow as a way to stop the pages from showing up in the Google search results, and it doesn't cause that to happen. It stops Googlebot from visiting and updating the content, and you'll end up with these horrible search listings that say something to the effect of no information is known about this result because of the robots.txt disallow directive or something. And don't do that. So you remove the disallow from your robots.txt, and then you add a meta robots no index HTML to the tag in the HTML, so that Googlebot can discover that, and BingBot, and obey that and drop that from the index. No index means no index. It's not showing up in the search results. Whereas disallow says Googlebot, don't visit here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very subtle difference. It's a bit arcane. We're search geeks. To us, that's like a black and white moment. It's like asking a programmer, hey, can you put a redirect in place? And they just tend to default to a 302 redirect, which is temporary, tells the engine, hey, something was here, it's been moved temporarily, it'll come back shortly, keep this in your index and wait for it.
But that said, that 302s actually are more beneficial nowadays than 301s from an SEO perspective,
for
counterintuitively.
Years, Bing would, they would hit the 302 5 times, and after that, if you were still 302, they assumed you meant 301 and made a mistake, and then just started passing value. Google has now stated that they pass value through the 302 as well. So, you know, that one's kind of matured to the point where it's been solved for everyone. But you kind of don't want to wait for that because that takes years.
But the 302 actually passes context for a longer time period than the 301 now. So the anchor text that was used that has some really great keywords in it that you want to rank for, that tends to continue getting passed with a 302 versus a 301 that drops off very quickly within just several months. So according to the research done at Link Research Tools, very large data set, very credible study, a 302 is actually more beneficial than a 301 for an SEO, from an SEO standpoint.
Just to clarify, don't go out, if you need to do redirects, don't go out and purposely build 302 redirects for these things.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No.
Because I just had a client who switched from their 301s to 302s, and they got a really nice lift.
And they picked that back up. Wow. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So.
The difference between the no index and the disallow, when to use each one on a new site versus a.
I would say always use the no index. If you don't want the pages to show up in the search result, just use the no index. A disallow will work only if Google has never spidered the site yet. So safest thing is never use disallows, always use no index. Because if you don't want the search engine to put it in the index, if you use a no index directive in your robots.txt, that only works with Googlebot and does not work with BingBot. So do this as a meta tag.
So let me just, one more thing to answer that specifically. If you're developing a new website, create the robots.txt before you create the website. You can use this disallow then because you don't have anything being spidered. What we're discussing is if I want to stop a new section of my website, the disallow becomes a little bit more difficult. In either case, we've seen people build a website with disallow, move it to production without removing the disallow, and lose their production rankings. So you have to remember in any case that if you're going to now want it indexed, you either remove the meta no index or you remove the disallow or both.
There's no downside, though, to always just using the no index and just not doing a disallow. But you're not going to get your desired result if you're using both. It's one or the other. So if you disallow, then you cannot, you don't let Googlebot in to see that there's a meta tag because it doesn't visit the page anymore. So that's a common mistake. So a couple quick things about the previous question. So does Google use your data against you? Absolutely. Absolutely. So quick example, Google Search Console, you're doing some sketchy stuff with one site, and they connect up your whole network of sites, and they all get penalized. That happens. How did they find it? Because you claimed all those sites in the same Google Search Console account. That was a really bad idea.
And, you know, that example could be even more innocuous. Like, you could just have 3 or 4 related websites that are fine, and then for some reason half of them start dropping off. Consumers just aren't engaging with them. Google's now paying more attention at all of your websites to see if that pattern's going to pan out, because they have to be ready to flip a competitor into that spot to satisfy searchers' needs. So yeah, they can and use that. And Google gets data from a ton of different sources beyond itself that help it understand the real traffic coming to your website compared to any other website on the net.
Okay, question here.
Yeah, I got one question in 27 parts.
How many?
Just kidding.
I did ask him to heckle before the session started.
Right. All right, as AI becomes more and more personal in delivering search results, how much do you feel confirmation bias will be a problem in search results, and that people won't get results that are anything relatively new for them? And if you think that's a problem, what do SEOs do about that?
Give me an example of how you see it going wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the way I'm looking at this is, you know, we're looking at Google just doing everything so personal that you're only going to get results for things that you're intimately familiar with or very, very closely related to that. And therefore, you're going to be missing results that fall outside of that spectrum.
That happens now with the state of things.
Yeah.
That's been going on for a while.
Yeah. Like,
well,
I say it as it's a lag. So I go in and I do things, right? It's like, you know, I'm buying new tires for my truck. And I purchase the tires. They're on their way to me. And for the next 3 weeks, all I see are tire ads chasing me around the internet. And, and Google is a similar scenario. And the AI has that same problem of, you were interested in this 5 minutes ago, 5 days ago. You may still be interested in that type of result now when you ask this query. The problem is, I've actually learned, and I have refined slightly with every piece of data I take in. I get smarter about what it is I'm actually looking for, but I'm the pointy end of that spear. And even AI can't keep up with that pointy end of the spear until it's seen all of the pointy ends of the spear. And then it says, ah, well, these group together and are likes. And therefore, I can skew in this direction and see how they respond to that.
Let me give an example. If you search for hammer, everybody knows what a hammer is? A hammer? The number 1 result is the Armand Hammer Art Museum at UCLA. The number 2 result is a vitamin. Number 3 result is a bowling ball. And the number 4 result is MC Hammer.
Thank God. I was getting culturally worried for a second there.
Well, if it wasn't MC Hammer, none of them would be tools. But
oh, come on.
But, come on. Okay.
Anyone who can build a good tweet out of that, you get one of Stephan's books.
You can't touch this.
Anyhow, the issue is if I had searched for pliers, equipment, tools, screwdriver, and then hammer, it would always be right. I wouldn't get anything other than the kind of hammer I wanted. So web history has been here for about 9 years, maybe longer.
Yeah.
And
like search for dolphins, and if you were searching for, I don't know, Steelers or something beforehand, you're going to get a very different search result than if you were searching for whales.
Right.
Well, and I'm not necessarily talking about the type of results. I'm talking about the actual specific sites that you're going to get that fit within the type of results that you're looking for, where confirmation like, well, you've seen these sites before, so we're going to deliver those sites again versus these sites, which might equally match your query. You haven't been familiar with them, so therefore...
Yeah, I think that's a real risk. I think it's a real risk. It's like the filter bubble that you experience with Facebook. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
So what do SEOs do about that if that becomes worse?
Build great content.
It's going to become worse because we've seen a version of that previous to the AI in RankBrain where they were kind of guessing at what it was, and if you engaged with something, then they took you down that path. And then you were unaware of what the other path really looked like. And the way around that was to clear all your cache, clear all your filters, reset everything, and then all of a sudden, everything looked a little bit different in your search results. You'd see some things in there that weren't quite there, but were related. You know, the AI's learning curve on that will be much faster than an algorithm and how it would approach that filtering. But it is going to get a little bit worse before it gets better. You guys, we talk about AI.
By the way, we got 5 minutes left.
Okay, so I'll be brief on this. It's worth researching the 3 levels of artificial intelligence and what that actually means. You know, when an AI starts off, it generally has the cognitive ability of a, I think, 2 or 3-year-old. You know, in the hierarchy of organisms, that's pretty advanced. But, you know, that 2-year-old still needs to know what a hot stove means. And they will learn that by touching the hot stove. And that's kind of where we're probably at an 8 or 9-year-old level at this point with the AI and RankBrain. You know, we saw a year and a half ago where the search results sucked. That was the 2-year-old AI doing what it needed to do to learn. It's learned very quickly. The results are more refined now. That will continue that curve. Will it ever get ahead of where it needs to be? Doubtful, because the human mind is so far advanced in its ability to connect dots that are relevant to you, the individual, at that moment, and not share that externally. Nothing can keep up with that.
Okay, so we're going to take your question, but I want to make an announcement.
That's fine.
We're almost out of time. All of us would be happy to follow up with you. Take a business card, write your question on the back, bring it up. We have plenty of information to send out, plenty of answers. You can come up and rush the stage afterwards. You can do whatever you need, because right behind us is this little thing called, what, a keynote? Yeah. Nobody goes to those.
And if you wanted a book and you didn't get one yet, only Oscar got one yet. Who wants a free book?
See, you guys haven't learned yet.
Okay, so you don't have to rush the stage for that. I'm going to give everybody a free book. Everybody in the room. Yep. I know, it's like an Oprah moment. So here's the URL you're going to write down. It's a free electronic copy, and you can pick which of the 3 books you want. So you don't have to get The Art of SEO if you don't want a heavy read.
Pick the big one.
Okay, so go to stephanspencer.com/free book, and the code you're going to use is ASW17, all caps. Okay, so stephanspencer.com, that's STEPHAN, Spencer with a C, .com/free book, and then ASW17 in all caps. Okay, everybody got that? So enjoy the book, and now you got to read it. Okay.
Okay, question.
How's it going, guys? I'm with an agency. We've got a bunch of dating sites. One of the smaller sites caters to like the polyamorous community. In an attempt to, I suppose, make it more popular, we made like a glossary, which is like 130-ish polyamorous terms that weren't really defined well on the internet. So we defined them. We built the pages out with AMP. They've got like 600 to 800 words of good content, and we sort of like linked them all pretty well, I think.
Are they all on one glossary page, or are they each definition on a separate page?
Each definition on a separate page. And so on a few of the terms now, it's been up for like 6 months, and we are the Google's preferred definition for X polyamorous term. It's openminded.com, if anyone's curious. And we're wondering how we can accelerate the growth on the other pages that might be tracking along slower.
So you're talking about getting featured snippets? Is that what you're trying to do?
Stuff like that. Pretty much like 5 of them are featured snippets at this point, but there's obviously like 125, which are...
Yeah.
Right.
So a few, really fast lightning around here. First of all, you want to try and get as high a click-through rate as possible, because you could be number 10 and take the featured snippet, which is position 0, if you have an extraordinarily high click-through rate for a number 10 result. So really work to have an incredible title and meta description, so you have a really nice snippet that's very compelling, gets lots of clicks, and then deliver massive value once you're there. Not just a definition, but really be helpful. So that's one thing. Also, you can look at the competitors who are like your top competitors. Use a tool like SEMrush, and go into, you can see all the organic keywords that they're ranking for, and set the filter to just featured snippets. So display only the featured snippets of your competitor, and then target those featured snippets. Go after, so the ideal thing is not to try and go after featured snippets with a paragraph snippet, but to have a better type of snippet because paragraph snippets are really weak. If there is a paragraph snippet currently, it could get overtaken by an ordered list or an unordered list or a table or whatever. So if it makes more sense, if it's a better answer to the user's query to have it done as a table or as an ordered list or something, then create it with that and use the OL tags if, you know, for a numbered list, or a bullet list would be UL tags and, you know, LI tags in the HTML. And let's see, what else do I want to say about featured snippets?
Well, why don't I do this? It is time. Remember how we started? Everybody circle 10s? Just wanted to make sure you didn't forget that part. We like coming back and doing this, and that kind of helps them want us back. The panel has...
and be sure and write in there Oprah moment.
Yeah, Oprah moment. As I said earlier, if you have cards and more questions, write the question on the back. We give away things. I need cards, but I give away things. Stephan gives away things. Duane just talks you to death. And
I don't cost anything, though.
He'll answer anything you want to ask.
Inexpensive.
So come on up, rush the stage. We want to thank you for attending our session.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.